the button now. I guess Jason will edit this, so I'll just do
this.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Head Cannon Circus podcast. I just blanked out for a second, but that's okay. We are doing a special author interview episode for you guys today. We are welcoming Hanna Flint, the author of Strong Female Characters. Let me go ahead and put that up on the screen because I am great.
Ooh, fun.
If you haven't picked up a copy of this, go ahead and pick up a copy. You should have already, but people are busy. That's life. But go ahead, drop some money, pick up the book. It's really, really good. But we're going to talk about it today, so that's great. Hanna, how you doing?
I'm great. Oh my god, we had like 2 seconds. I was trying to work out the lighting. It's like never been sunny in England. You're like, we can't cope. We're a temperate climate. We're not ready for this.
It's handle funny because it's raining here in Georgia and it never rains.
Oh, there we go.
Today, well, my part of town is raining. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's past me, so I actually have the sun coming in. So I was like, oh, okay, like there we go. So I have this little lantern that I use sometimes to give myself some light.
You're like, not a ring light. I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah, no,
that's just, maybe later when the podcast starts making money. But for now, the lantern works. So welcome. Yeah, Hanna. Go ahead, Jason.
No, go ahead, Lisa.
You're so polite to each other. So I'm Hanna.
Yeah.
No, I actually no. Thank you so much for having me. And it was really nice to get your message because, of course, this came out the book came out in the UK in September. It came out in the US in February. So it's really nice when you get kind of out of the blue, like people like want to talk to you. It's like, oh wow, it's found places.
Yeah,
people that have heard of it.
Yeah, and it was. Was this okay? So I have a question. I'm going to go ahead and start. Have you seen the stand-up comedy clip where I can't remember which comedian is, but he's saying everyone wants to talk about like their life, and he says, okay, everyone needs to get real cool with a lot of stuff real quick, and did you kind of have that mentality when you were making this book? Because this is, I mean, you don't talk badly about your parents, but there are definitely some uncomfortable times where I could see like it might be hard for your mom to read those things, And did you have that moment where like, okay, mom, you're going to have to be real cool real quick? Or had you already had these conversations with her?
You stole my question, Lisa. Dang it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, unfortunately, my parents are still alive, but fortunately, my parents are still alive. If you write something,
I know, yeah,
you can do it. Like, what's that book recently that memoir came out? It was like, I'm glad my mum is dead.
Yeah,
like you can do that type of stuff, and I'm 100% I do not feel that way about my mum or dad. But I suppose for me, because this isn't just a straight memoir, it's more about. So the subtitle is what movies teach us. And so being able to use cinema as a way to look back on my life and it not to be a kind of chronological, exactly what happened in every aspect of my upbringing. And, I'm 35 now. So like it was never going to be about that. But I definitely felt a responsibility to my parents my mum and my stepdad who are in my life, to give them copy approval. And it was more about like, because there's a certain sense of like, I don't know. I think even when you do memoirs, there's certain things that you need to put in and out. And I didn't need to put everything that's ever happened in my life to kind of make a point about how mother-daughter relationships are presented on screen, how we inherit stuff as women and, women of color, as people of color, as, different aspects of that. But I did feel the need to definitely let my mum read specifically, especially through the chapters. That was certainly one that was about mums, one about dads, and getting their approval. And it was interesting. It was quite cathartic, actually. I think also for my parents, because I think, I don't know, like there's that movie Rashomon, which I think is like a perfect example, like one of the perfect movies to show like how an event happens and whoever's involved in it, they have their own perspective on the way. So us three, we're having this conversation now. We all have our own perspective on how it's going. And so I think sometimes when you look back, especially when you look about younger years and certain things that I was going through, And probably I didn't talk to my parents about when I was younger because I didn't feel comfortable with these things. You know, it can create a bit of tension when you're like, wait a sec, was that happen? I don't remember it like that, or this type of, you know, all that type of situation. But I think fundamentally it's like, I think it was, for me, it was really important to show, like, certainly contextualize as well, like where my parents come from or like what they've been through to understand why I am who I am and how that influences. Because I'm sure we all know that, like, we are what we are today because of the people who did or didn't raise us. And so for me, having that context was really important. And especially as the two most important people who like inspired my love of film, like I would, if they didn't take me to the movies every week, if they didn't go to Blockbuster Videos every Friday night, like things like that, like I don't think I would love the film that in the way that I do.
Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off Elise's question here because you get very candid about some things and some aspects in your life in this book. And knowing that your parents are going to read it, when you were writing these
what are you talking about? Adult material? I talk a lot about my sex life.
Yeah. There's things my parents still believe I'm a virgin. I have a child. So there's things I don't talk to my parents about. When you were writing this, did you have those like sort of feelings of, oh crap, my mom's going to read this, so maybe I should pare back? And if you did, how'd you deal with those thoughts? Like, because as I said, I don't talk to my parents like that. And I know that when I write a book, they're gonna be like, holy crap, Jason, really? Clutching their pearls.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember when I'd like got and maybe got like the final proofs. And I remember I was sat in my flat, the flat I'm in now, and my mum and dad were down, and my mum's like still reading it, and she finally got to the bit where I'm talking about sex, and she's just every now and then she just stops and starts laughing, and then she's telling my dad about it, and I'm like, Dad, Mum, spoilers. Like, but for me, I suppose because I come from, you know, my bread and butter is being a film critic, and I really care about. The reason why I talk about these subjects is because I think another way in that cinema is distorted in like the way. Sorry, I'm like really aware of like the like little shininess of my face. Is there a lens there? Sorry. But
it's for dramatic purposes. That's what
it is. Yeah, exactly. It's like the hazy. I'm thinking of a memory, and therefore, like this is what's coming out. Cinema. Yeah. But I remember. What I watch on screen, and you know I think my point about part of the point of the book is how much cinema is a reflection of the world, but it's quite distorted, and but it teaches a lot of things about like how we have sex, how we date, like what is romance. And then I think it was important to have a chapter on kind of porn and the way sex is related as well, because that's a big part of like erotic cinema and like things that we see on screen. So for me, I have no issues with talking about my sex life, to be honest, especially when it's like, I don't know, I don't think I would tweet about it, but no, it's in a book and you have to like actually like sit down and read it within a whole long context. It's a lot easier just saying, oh yeah, I had a threesome once, you know, like, you know what I mean?
It was seriously just like in passing. I just had to.
I mean, it was refreshing to be
okay.
Yeah. But I think it's all a part of the purpose of the book is also to normalize so many things that we go through, things that we are scared about talking about, because sex is a vital part of life. And certainly, and I suppose especially for like women, like our pleasure from it and what we get out of it has often not been the priority. And so for me, I really wanted to have a conversation, like have a real conversation. You know what, you just reminded me, because I'm like, obviously, like I love a bit of like self-harm when it comes to reading reviews. I mean, it's so hilarious now. It's like the critic becomes critiqued, and it's like, oh wow, no, I go for it. But I did read like I did read one Goodreads review, and they gave it 3 stars. And it was like, oh, I really liked it. And still she started talking about her sex life, which was a bit too much. And I was like, wow, I'm being slut-shamed in
for real.
Review. But it's like, that's what I mean. And it's seeing that was like, this is exactly why we need to talk about these things. This is exactly why I'm glad I wrote it, because it has been really nice to get the feedback of saying, like, even if you haven't had the exact experience, but like being able to talk about and hopefully open up a conversation and dialogue with your friends, your family, your partner, all these things that you feel a bit more comfortable. That was kind of the purpose. And I think cinema is getting better at showing, sex isn't a monolith for women, but like showing like orgasms and like showing like, actual women getting pleasure, but also the kind of darker side of that. And like when we see so much of sexual assault and why rape culture is also perpetuated on screen. So So go back to your question. Yeah, I mean, I kind of just wrote it, and then I feel like my parents like they laughed a bit at it, but you know, I think they were kind of chill about it in the end. You know, I mean, they're white parents, so
Yeah.
they're different.
They're built a little differently.
Yeah.
Well,
It's so funny speaking to some of my really good friends who are like, you know, Black female critics, like, and you even see it in films. I was like, white parents let kids get away with things so much more than like ethnic minorities or Black kids or whatever like that. And it's like, I never knew the biological father, so it's like I never experienced that. So I'm kind of like, there's my privilege.
Yeah.
Do you call your parents by their first name?
You know what? No, I don't. Although it does now at this point though in my life, it's like oh, Caroline or something like that. You know what I mean, I might say it under my breath, but I don't know. I don't. Yeah, or Phil. But I called my dad old man a lot. That's my thing. And
that's fair enough. That's
fair enough. Yeah, that's a classic. That's a classic.
I've watched peers of mine call their parents by their first name. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, I would never.
My mom is still mom. My dad is still dad until they're dead.
No,
I don't even know their first names.
It's funny though. There's things that you will say, like I think about like I could never call my dad daddy again. It's been corrupted too much.
Yes,
that word. The only thing I think about daddy, who's that guy who was in like Will and Grace, and he died recently. I want to say Leslie something. And he used to go, it's like, daddy, yes. Look at me, daddy. And it's like every time I think of that, daddy, I think of that. It's like, can't ever. So
it's going to haunt me what the actor's name.
It was a sad day when he died.
It was a sad day. I think it's Leslie something.
Yeah,
I have the power of the internet in front of me. Leslie Jordan.
Leslie Jordan, that's it. I'm glad you told me because I'll end up waking up at like 3 a.m. and I'll be shouting, Leslie Jordan. And I'll be like, okay.
It would bother me all day until I figured out their last name.
No, I think my kids like one time in passing like tried to call me Lisa, and I was just like, negative, like never. I think I just scared it so much that they don't even know my name now. They just,
my son at the Juneteenth party on Saturday kept calling me by my first name, and I'm like, what are you doing in front of guests, son?
I did not hear him say that, or I would have yelled at him. I'm sorry.
Did you give him like the look of like?
I gave him like what are you doing? He's like, you're not answering the dad. I'm like, oh my god. There's 80 kids
these
here.
days, eh? I haven't got kids, and I'm kind of like, I feel like it might be a while before I want to.
It's not worth it.
Don't listen to him. You do what you want.
It's not worth it.
You know what it is? It's like it's funny because again, part of the book is like talking about, do I want to have kids? So
yes.
Like, I don't know. For me, I don't feel like there's this arbitrary. It feels like it becomes quite arbitrary having kids, and I certainly my situation and where I am in my life, it's like, oh wow, I am not ready to not be selfish because it is a whole identity change, right? Once you have a child, so it's multiple kids.
It's your whole personality. I mean, that's just really what it is, and everything has to be about them. I have all my friends they're your age, and none of them have kids yet, and they just live these like glamorous amazing lives, and they go on vacations like 4 times a year, and I maybe get to make it on 1 if I'm lucky, you know, like they just, and I'm just like, is that what it's like?
It's not. It's not. Because I tell you how glamorous my life was on Saturday. I went to my friend Nikesh Shukla. He wrote a Spider-Man comic, Spider-Man India, like a new fun for Marvel. So I went to that launch, and I went to a house party, and I got home at 7 a.m. and I was sat on my sofa eating 20 chicken nuggets. So like that is that's my life. That's my glam.
So you were not in Turks and Caicos on Saturday. I got you.
That's a very parent-ist lifestyle. I've sat on the couch and ate 20 nuggets at 7 a.m. before. So
yeah, but is it every weekend?
I got a teenage boy, so yes.
Maybe. Yeah.
Did you? So this is a little sidetrack, but have you seen the new Across the Spider-Verse?
I have seen it. Yeah.
And how they did the Spider-Man. How did you feel about that? The what's his name, Jason? I can't remember.
Oh my god, you're asking me for
there we go. Thank you.
Guitar.
What were your thoughts on that?
I mean,
or any of the Spider-Men. Really?
Well, I really liked it. So I know Dan Slott, who wrote the Spider-Verse, and I was reading that before watching Spider-Man. And I suppose this is sometimes the difficulty when you adapt. I think I saw The Flash recently as well. It's like when you're
Mm-hmm.
adapting something that's quite a complex comic book narrative, and then doing on the big screen and not having the freedom to, I suppose the animation you do have a bit more freedom, but The Flash kind of didn't work because it's kind of like the Flashpoint Paradox is a very good comic book.
I know. Why don't we do that?
Like several movies, honestly.
I loved it. And, and
Flash
even the choice
so
of
good.
like, I know I've just gone to Flash, but it's like in my head, but like even the choice of having Michael Keaton's Batman instead of like a Thomas Wayne, for me, that lacks the kind of like emotional depth of why that works.
Jeffrey
that
Dean Morgan is right there.
Oh my God, he would have been great. He would have been great.
Yeah.
He would have been great. And also doing like going into like, is it spoilers if I talk about this? But like
No, go
Zod
ahead.
coming back. Zod coming back. It's like we've done him. I mean, I did like the Supergirl thing because I think that's one bit that kind of worked from the thingy. But again, it's like we're getting this character like once, and it's like, okay, are we going to see her again? But with the Spider-Verse, I love the first one. I love the first one. It's a perfect film. I thought the second one, what they've done with the animation is just so good. Like the levels, like I love the way that in Spider-Gwen's world, like it's this watercolor and it's like a mood ring, so it really reflects like her state of mind. And then you get into like the Michelangelo, like kind of like Italian like Renaissance with the vulture and all these different things. It's so much fun. And I love, like, I was really lucky because Daniel Kaluuya, I interviewed him for Empire magazine, one of the places that I wrote about, and we spoke about like him doing Spider-Punk. And I love that because it made him proper Camden boy. Like Danny's from Camden. It's like let's like embed his
proper accent.
yeah, exactly. And also Danny's like started off in like he was in Skins. He was Posh Kenneth. Like he's done comedy. Like he's not the gritty. I know we've seen him in some very dark roles. It's like, give him a break.
Yeah.
So I love that he got that in this, but there's still a darkness to it. And like, I just felt with this, there was so much going on at once that I found sometimes it was like a bit discombobulating. Like it was quite bloated with the amount of things that they're introducing. Sometimes that's my only, like, I loved it. Like for me, it's a 4-star instead of a 5-star. And it's kind of like, I love Bruce Springsteen. And it's like when Rolling Stone gave like Bruce Springsteen like a 4-star. And it's like, wow. This is like shattering. They took a start. But
what did he do to you guys?
Yeah, exactly. But no, I thought it was I thought Pavita, I love that again, that they kind of really made it specific to the character and the cultural identity of it. And I think that's what you get with the animated films. You get that freedom to do whatever you kind of want and make it look gorgeous, and then get and like artists and stuff from those backgrounds. It's so much fun. Did you guys like Spider-Verse?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 because I'm like that. I like everything usually. So and I particularly love Spider-Man, and so I loved it. I can't wait to see it again, and just I feel like I missed so much because I was just, my eyes were all over the screen.
Okay, if you love Spider-Man, can I ask you a question? Because this is my biggest pet peeve with like the recent Spider-Mans with Tom Holland and the way Aunt May is presented. Because for me, and certainly in the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, when you have, and then with Rosemary, I forget her second name, and then you have like Sally Field with Andrew Garfield, and like for me, Aunt May is like the moral heart of Peter Parker. Like she gives some in both those films, she gives these really lovely speeches about like, you know, because obviously Uncle Ben is like the catalyst, but like it's Aunt May who reminds him like, you know, this is who you are, Peter, and you've got to be, you know, once when he's like there, like at his bottom, it's like Aunt May who like brings him back up. And then with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, they just made her into a hot aunt. Like, she just didn't do nothing. And don't get me wrong, I like the way her Spider-Man, the third Spider-Man, No Way Home, ended it. But the first 2 films were just basically, hey, she's really hot. That's about it. And then she starts dating. And then she starts dating Happy and is like, you know this is a fantasy realm. As if. And just that really annoyed me about that characterization.
Jon Favreau's a pretty nice guy, I would imagine.
I love him. But the idea they just shoehorned in, and then suddenly Tony Stark, it's like his like moral, like the father, the parental figure. And it's like
or whatever. That's
what annoyed me. It's like you already have a parental figure in Aunt May. Like let her do her job. So that was my pet peeve.
So that was always my issue, honestly, with Homecoming. Was it Homecoming? Yeah, that was always my issue with Homecoming, that it wasn't, I always just said, like, I enjoyed Homecoming a lot, but it wasn't a Spider-Man movie, it was an Iron Man movie. And I don't like that, because I feel like then you're just pandering. I don't know. It annoys me, and I was just
Yeah,
and at
yeah.
that point I was over Tony Stark, and
Yeah.
and I hated that too. I hated how like the first all he did was talk about how hot Aunt May was. Like we all know Marissa Tomei is hot. We have
Yeah.
that. Like
we can see.
that.
Yeah.
Like, stop. But I love. But
I don't need hot exposition.
Yeah, like we get it. Like she could show up in like sweatpants from Costco, and we're gonna be like, she's so hot.
Yeah.
So like it's fine. But yeah, but I think that that's leftover. Just like Tony Stark in that first, and I guess that was technically phase 2. Was that phase 2? I
I
can't
have no
remember.
idea at this point.
I'd have to ask my son, but I think he's still sleeping, so he knows all those answers.
I think it might be when Spider-Man came in. It must be phase 2 because isn't like phase 4 what we're in now?
Yeah, so it had to have been phase 2 because it was during the Civil War era. So and that was still kind of like they were solely superhero movies, and not to say they weren't deep, but they were kind of not quite so story driven, I feel like. And that's why I'm a big fan of phase 2 because I feel like they have deeper stories. But anyway, so yeah, I agree. That's why I love Homecoming for certain reasons, but the biggest reason why I don't love it the most is because it's a Tony Stark movie, not a Spider-Man movie.
And also Spider-Man, I know later they give like Peter Parker Industries, whatever, but the guy is poor. And so when it's something it's like he doesn't have any money. So then bringing Tony Stark in to like do all these things, it's like that's part of his struggle is that he's trying to do this on like a freelance photographer's budget. I'm a freelance film critic. I could not be a superhero at the same time. It'd be too expensive. I'd be like, no.
I mean, just to get the chemicals for the web fluids themselves, it should be like, I get an extra job. I need to, do some DoorDash over here.
See, this is why I didn't see the issue with like the fact that Tobey Maguire's they get on it, so it comes out. It's like that makes so much sense, and it saves the whole thing of him trying to invent it and running out or whatever.
Yeah.
But I also was it Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3 where it's kind of like he's having a Spider-Man 2, isn't it? Suddenly he's like having like a psychological nightmare, so he can't do anything, so he reverts back to like
oh yeah.
And I love that part of it. Yes. Again, it's like he just can't handle it all. He needs therapy.
Emo. Yeah.
Honestly, all of them need therapy. That's big.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're superheroes, because someone needs to talk to them and sit them down.
I have a question, Hannah. I'm sorry. I promise I'm going to ask you about your book, but now I have this issue.
Honestly, you don't even have to talk about my book. We can just talk about Marvel the entire time.
because I have this issue with is it Endgame? Yes, Endgame, where in that final fight scene that they have like the scene with all the girls, they are all, which when I saw it in theater and I saw it with my daughter, we both clapped hands, and it gave us goosies, and we liked it. We're intelligent females. We understand that it was pandering to us, right? It doesn't change the fact that it still meant something to us. But the thing is it still gets me that Scarlett Johansson was not in that scene, and I don't think that it's fair. And I understand that she died or all that stuff, but I don't think that it's fair that she was in the trenches. She was like the only face of Marvel for so long. And then they have this giant epic scene and she doesn't get to be there. And it makes me so mad. And I'm like the only person who thinks that.
What makes me madder is the fact that once again, going back to Tony Stark, he gets to have this massive funeral that everyone turns up to. And all we see is like Hulk throw a bench.
Yes, that's it. That's all we get.
And it's like, that's all we get for Natasha. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind that she sacrifices her life because I think that's actually a beautiful, because again, there's this whole thing women should be able to sacrifice themselves, right? They should be able to, shouldn't have the man come in. And that's kind of like annoying a bit about like Terminator too, because I talk about that in a lot, because the final chapter is about like strong female characters in the action genre. But I don't know, like, I think when you're trying to course correct a lot of like very male heavy, male dominated, I should say white male dominated narratives, trying to like suddenly incorporate. That's why Black Widow afterwards felt a little. I really liked Black Widow in the movie. Like I liked elements of it, and I thought it was fun, but it was like this shouldn't have been an afterthought. This should have been done before. Because then it just doesn't feel as like. You know what's going to happen. So I don't know. It felt like it was patching up things, and it wasn't like I really enjoyed it, but I also feel like I'm quite like susceptible to enjoy Marvel films because I just love Marvel. But I don't think it did her due diligence. But yeah, that final sequence, I don't know. It's just, even when they do the thing where it's like girl versus girl in Infinity War, where they had like Denai Guerrero, who is it, Okoye, and Scarlett Johansson.
She's been in there the whole time.
Yeah, those things like kind of like really, really annoy me. But yeah, I don't know. You know, I kind of had more that what you said, that moment, like the female superheroes like jumping up. I did get a chill watching it, but then half of me was like, oh,
yeah.
Like, I feel like Kanye. You know that gif of Kanye where he's like, and it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like watching that. But then I also have to remember, like you said, if you watch it with your daughter watching that, like there are different levels when you're watching movies and what it means to certain people. And certainly we have to remember that these are kind of, I don't know, when you're doing a 4-quadrant movie trying to appeal to everyone, they are fundamentally like children's, adult, you know what I mean, trying to hit all those marks. So maybe that wasn't for us. Maybe that was for the little girls.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't have to be for us. I don't know.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And
she was squeezing my hand. Yeah. So it was exciting for her. So
it's not for you. It's
not for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We're gonna put that on a t-shirt one day.
I say that all the time. Like, maybe it's just not for me.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting as well when it comes to like criticism, because big part of like for me, so I am half Tunisian, so I'm like Arab, North African, British heritage, and certainly when it comes to like the history of who's been able to write about films and talk about films, right? It's been very much cis straight white male, like who have the outfits, who have the platforms, and you know that's the factory settings. And so when people think, I was doing a podcast recently, this criticism podcast, and it was like, you know, you have a lot of white men who get like really white male critics who are like, oh, you shouldn't bring, you know, you have to compartmentalize, you know, you don't have to bring your identity to like your writing. It's like you have to, because you are like, you don't live life in a vacuum. Like everything that you have ever been through informs the way you see the world. So when you've like never had to think about like what are the dynamics of like, you know, if you once again have like an interracial relationship, or like, or if you have like another culture where like white savior coming in, it's like, if you're always the norm that's been seen, maybe actually like you've never had to worry about your identity because it's always been there, it's always been represented. And so I often think to myself as well, like I always feel like people who are like marginalized or minorities, I think they're far better at like reviewing like the norm, like the, you know, the factory settings than the other way around. Like we can probably review it because we've been grown. Like I kind of compare it to like in the book to like, you know, Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's the character H, which in the movie is played by what's her name? Lena Waithe. Lena Waithe.
Yeah.
So in it, so she's so she in the game, everyone thinks she's just this like cis straight white male, but actually she's a black lesbian. And it's like, so she has to learn all this stuff, this white dude's favorite things, all these kind of, all the things in it are basically like Monty Python, like war games, all these things are very much tailored to like a white male like taste, like pop culture taste. She has to do that to understand it, and then she does really well. And it's like, well, yeah, she knows more of that, but I bet she knows all the stuff that's specific to her culture as well, like her background, whether it's you know, all the little things like Black Exploitation, Spike Lee, and all these different ways to come to music and stuff. So when you have to like have that as the main thing and try to find yourself in characters that probably don't share anything with you, I always find it interesting when people say that like the other way around, like they think, oh, I don't know if they'll relate to this person. It's like, we've been doing it for fucking
we got you. Yeah. Exactly.
That reminds me of like a critic review of the movie Turning Red for Pixar.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was like, I can't really, you know, get into this movie because it's so specific. And me as a black male, I'm not Asian or female, I'm sitting there watching this movie, bawling my eyes out because like I can empathize with the characters that are on the screen, but this guy's like, I don't understand. I'm like, get out of here. Are you not human?
Yeah. It's mad because it's kind of like, then learn.
Yeah.
Learn.
And then to relate to it, because actually, if you've got, I don't know, I'm not trying to do the father of daughter things, but it's also like, this is the world. Women are half the population, and like
half the population.
It's not
like
a little
you
bit
can relate
more.
to Stand By Me, but you can't relate to Turning Red. Like,
Yeah.
like, and that's what we're dealing with. And I think it's just actually, I find it's more of an unwillingness to move, to be able to, and people are so calcified in the way that they see things. And like, there's certainly, I'm sure we've all gone through at certain points in life, there's things that we like when we were younger, and then you kind of come back to it again, you might be like, oh no, or things that you didn't like, you were like, oh, I'm not really into that genre of movie, like genre style, and then you watch something later, or you watch another film by the director that you didn't like, and then you watch the next one, you're like, oh, I do like that. We can change our opinions because we change what we learn about the world, what we pick up, and where we are in our own lives and stuff. You know, there's things that I probably didn't relate to. It's so weird when you look at films like watching like something like Never Have I Ever, and I'm like, wow, I'm like twice as old as this but I can still watch it and like relate to the things, or even kind of feel, obviously because I went through what a young girl did, but even in so many different ways, like we're like sponges and taking on all these experiences. And I feel personally, as part of my like craft and what I do for a living, I want to watch as many things as possible, and not just stuff that's coming out now, but also going back. Like, I didn't study film at uni. Like, my love of cinema comes from going with my family, like watching it, having like a unlimited car, going to the movie every week, and then like just through like things like streaming services. And then, like the other day, I was watching. I watched like Denis Villeneuve's Polytechnic, and then I watched Robert Bresson's Pickpocket, and then I watched Un Chien Andalou, like Salvador Dali, and I think it's Louis Brunel film, and it's like, that was like very, very, very odd triple bill, but it was like watching that, and it's like, oh cool, maybe I didn't love everything about each bit, but I can see where the influence has gone on, like how Robert Bresson has influenced like Paul Schrader, or like, you know, even the kind of techniques that Un Chien Andalou did with the surrealism, can see how that's been regurgitated with like something like David Cronenberg or David Lynch, you know, things like that.
Anybody
like,
named David.
yeah, basically all the Davids. So it's kind of like, so like for me, that's what I feel like, it's a craft in the same way like any sort of artistic thing, because even, you know, technically I think criticism is a kind of art form in itself, because it's trying to understand the way we tell stories. And my biggest thing is like, what does it make you feel? Did you guys see the Souvenir Part 2?
No.
Well, Souvenir Part 1 wasn't much fan of, but Souvenir Part 2 is great, and there's an actor called Richard Ayoade, and he plays this like filmmaker in it, and it's a bit where like he's editing this musical, and he's asking him, like, he's a director, he's like, so what do you think? And they're like, yeah, it's great. And he's like getting really angry because it's like, great is not enough, like nice is not enough. He's like, what does it make you feel? And like, I always feel like whenever I come out of a movie, it's like, what does it make me feel? Like angry, like emotional, like you know, scared, all these things. And I think that's a mark of a great movie, that you come away and you might hate it, but even that's a feeling.
Yeah.
Like I hated Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
I actually cried at the end of Halloween Ends. I was like, oh my God, look at them all come together, this town. I thought, don't get me
Finally.
wrong. Yeah, I did actually interview Jamie Lee Curtis, and I was like, so tell me, how's it ended though?
Yeah.
You just don't know. They keep lying. It's like false evidence. Yeah. Like, I'm so mad that Hugh Jackman has come back as Wolverine. Like that after Logan, which was a perfect
it's done. I don't even need Wolverine anymore at all.
Like after that movie. Like that, you couldn't have asked as a superhero actor who's been in it for 17 odd years. You couldn't have asked. It was like 2000. When was the X-Men? It's like, you couldn't have asked for a better send-off than Logan. It was just beautiful, like Oscar nominated, like James Mangold. He did the thing based on Old Man Logan comic, but it was like sick. And then it's like, and then he's gonna come back for Deadpool. Not even like the original Deadpool. Deadpool 3. It's the third one, and we know what happens to the third ones.
Yeah, and it's a Deadpool that Disney has its hooks in, so it's gonna not even be like really good.
To be honest, if Ryan Reynolds asks me to do something, I'm gonna do it.
True, but I think kind of Hugh Jackman's basically his like. I think what's happened is maybe his post like Wolverine, like non-superhero stuff, hasn't really done that well. Because if you think about like The Sun. I mean, I wasn't really a massive fan of The Greatest Showman, and he did that reminiscence.
I refuse.
I love.
You're like, I'm not.
I loved it.
refuse
Greatest
to watch
Showman,
that
but
movie.
yeah.
Good soundtrack. The movie's
I love
terrible.
the soundtrack. Yes.
Absolute gaslighting of history. The guy, P.T. Barnum, was an ultimate racist.
Yeah, that's
He's
why
a terrible human being.
Exploiting, like
Yeah.
they were basically often with slaves, weren't they? Indentured.
Yeah, he kept a person as a slave. Even in
Yes.
places that, and then when that person died, he used their body
Yes.
to make more money.
Yeah. Oh wow.
No,
yeah,
they really.
I refuse.
No, thank you, sir. Yeah. No, that was really.
I watch anything else from Jackman, even like Les Miserables.
He's voicing that character in Human Resources, isn't he?
Yes.
If you watch that animated series, that's his highest, and maybe that's why it's like, I need that money. Deadpool Disney money.
These houses don't pay for themselves.
He doesn't want to do Broadway anymore. It's too much work, I think.
He also got like a bunch of kids too, I think.
Yeah, he's got a couple of kids, hasn't he? But also, Broadway is like takes it out of you. Like, I'm always very impressed by actors who do stage work. Like, I remember seeing Mark Rylance do this play called Jerusalem, and he's basically playing a drunk guy all the way through with like a limp. And like the first opening show, he like cracks like 2 eggs and like puts in something and downs it. And I'm like, you're doing that 8 times a week.
Oh,
like
for
his cholesterol must just be through the roof.
Yeah.
I just can't even imagine.
Have you heard of A Little Life, the book? And then they've done a stage show of it. And I interviewed James Norton recently, who plays the lead guy in it. And like A Little Life is like, it's Ivan Van Hove who's adapted it. He did it, I want to say in like Norway. And then he's doing it in London. And it's like a 3 and a bit hour play. Mm-hmm. And it's like loads of self-harm. Like James Norton is like naked half the time on set. It's just brutal.
Yes, I have heard of this. Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, again, you're doing this 7, maybe like 2 matinees as well. It's like, no, I'm impressed. Like you have to put your body, and he's got diabetes, so he's like having to like check his levels on time. It's just I mean, it can be quite a labor acting.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
You could never be me.
I could never. No. As soon as I was uncomfortable once, I'd be like, I quit.
Yeah.
Have you seen also like Evan Peters? You know, he's always doing these really dark roles, and now he's like basically saying, I need to take a break because it gets. Like, I mean, if you think of the roles, it just all the different characters he's played on American Horror Story alone. And then, have you seen any American Horror Story?
I was like very much a fan. And then I think it kind of lost its way these later seasons. Yeah. I'm interested to see the new one in New York, but it's all kind of very similar, right? It's all kind of similar.
Yeah, it's all kind of very similar. And
I think
trauma porn.
Well, yeah, and I think I wrote this thing for the BBC recently about like method acting, and this isn't what they're doing. Isn't like, I mean, not method acting in a traditional sense. I think nowadays, anytime that someone like there's this big, so of course, like when I say stuff doing like on stage, it's kind of a labor because it's having to do that every night.
Right.
Whereas for a movie, you're doing a set period, and I do feel like we have people like Robert De Niro and Daniel Day-Lewis and even like Jeremy Strong have been labeled like method actors because they go to these extreme efforts for like getting in the role. But fundamentally, method is less like not sleeping for like, or like, there's that whole story about like Dustin Hoffman not sleeping for 72 hours when he did Running Man, because it was like, and then this famous story is that Laurence Olivier goes to him, dear boy, have you tried acting? Because and like, we've heard about Jeremy Strong going to intense levels of like, keeping himself isolated from the rest of the cast, like, again, just staying in character and stuff, which again isn't method. It's kind of like, that's just people feeling like they can't switch it on and off and they want to rather do that. And then you end up having this acting. Like, and so I imagine like with someone like Evan Peters doing these things, I'm sure he's pretty much done something similar so he can keep that darkness. But like other actors, like, no, I can't do that. I don't want to be like, that's not fun. But like people like Jeremy Strong have said something like, and there's a really good critic, Angelica J. Bastian, who writes for Vulture and New York Magazine, and I was talking to her about this piece, but she's written about it, this subject as well. It's like like some of these actors, it's like it's kind of this like macho masculine thing where they think that acting is quite like a frivolous like job, and so they have to put a lot of labor into it to make it feel like, hey, I'm a man, this is a real hard job, so they feel good. And even Jeremy Strong said, like, if I didn't take it this seriously, I'd just be all ridiculous. And it's like, Or you could be like,
it's a
or
movie
you could be like,
just have
yeah,
fun.
yeah. You like Jenna Rollins, like great method actor, like Amy Adams, like all these people who use like techniques. It's like, but you never hear about that stuff because again, like the extreme weight loss and gain, that's also a part of like the whole narrative when it comes to award season. Because again, it's that labor. Oh, look what I'm putting my body through.
Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of, I just think get better at acting.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than having to live it. I don't know. I say this as someone who's not an actor, so maybe.
There was somebody recently, I can't remember who the actor's name was, who was just like really pissed off another actor because they were doing the whole method thing. And they're just like, it's not that serious. Like,
yeah.
I want to say it's
Cox
like
about Jeremy Strong.
Yep, that was exactly what it was.
He's like, he's Scottish. He doesn't give a shit. He's
been
here long enough that he doesn't have to worry about it. I honestly, I'm like, where my light is going on my eyes, it's like, oh wow. I'm like, what's that?
Is.
I feel like now I'm a superhero. Okay. But yeah, I mean, again, like that's the thing. You're in a professional environment. This is a professional workspace, and it kind of feels sometimes some people are, some people might not mind that sort of stuff if people have to do that. But if you're doing it in a way that creates a toxic work environment, maybe think about better ways to doing it. I don't know. But I more people say there's so many people like Mads Mikkelsen and Toni Collette are like, fuck, that's bullshit. Like, do you know what I mean? No, I don't think many people enjoy it. Although I've heard that Daniel Day-Lewis isn't actually that bad when he does things. He's not like intensely like antisocial. He's just like, just call me Mr. Lincoln or something like that.
Or I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of this whole entire shoot. Yeah.
But I think like Angelina Jolie is like that, because I think I remember reading, this is forever ago, when Girl Interrupted came out, her talking about how she literally just secluded herself from the whole cast, and like, so she missed out on, I don't know. I think I'm a little mad at her that she missed out on this opportunity to be like BFFs with Winona Ryder. Like, because
or Brittany Murphy,
or Brittany Murphy, or like, because you're gonna yell at them in a scene. And
I wonder if there's a difference where she wouldn't do that now though, because she's got like 20 kids, so it's kind of like,
I don't know.
Like again, it's maybe when you're younger and you've got the freedom to try things out and you can do whatever you want, like it's a lot easier. But like nowadays, I think a lot once you've got family involved, you can't just be like bringing that shit home, right?
Yeah.
Unless you just don't give a shit. Get the nannies.
I just won't see you for the whole entirety of the shoot. It's going to be 6 months, but you guys are fine. We're rich. It's fine.
Yeah. But you often hear it more about with male actors than you do with female actors, because, again, if a woman is difficult, is branded difficult, it's like, she's causing trouble. Yeah, if like women do the same stuff that some of the male actors pull, like she'd be branded and wouldn't be able to work with. And then like the other way around, you'd be like, oh wow, look how brave they are. Like how brave. So brave.
He's just an auteur. He's just so intense. That's why Tom Cruise keeps making movies.
Right. Tom Cruise is insane though. Like I just find him, like I watched Far and Away for the first time recently. The Ron Howard film with Nicole Kidman. Yes. I'd never seen it before, and I watched this film on film festival at the BFI, and I was like, "This is sick. This is so good." Like, why are we trying? Like, honestly, sometimes I feel it needs to be a massive reassessment of some of these films because it's so much fun. Like, I like Ron Howard. I think Willow is great. Like, there's so many things that he's done that's great. I mean, I didn't like the what is it called, Solo, a Star Wars story, but I'm going to put that down to
that movie.
I think that's I mean, I would say actually whoever decided to sack Chris Miller and Phil Lord and bring him in.
Whatever Disney exec did that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it Kathleen Kennedy?
Probably.
But I was like, Tom Cruise is like a proper like movie star. And even like now, it's like when you're watching it, there's a scene in it where he's like running down the thing. I was like, see what we wouldn't have had Ethan Hunt without Far and Away. But there's a bit where he's like on a horse going up like this, and I'm like, see, there's the action star. This is just like building up to it. I'm very excited. I'm seeing Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning tomorrow morning, so we'll see.
I love all the Mission Impossible movies except for the second one, so I can't wait.
The one with Tandy Ray Newton and Dougray Scott, that was so good. I like that one. Sean Bean, wasn't it? Was it Sean Bean? No, I'm thinking of GoldenEye. Sorry, I'm thinking of GoldenEye. Franchise.
Yeah, that's what I was like. When was Sandy in Mission? I just watched all the.
Well, they had motorcycle jousting in that, and I don't.
Wasn't that John Woo though?
Yeah, it was John Woo, and maybe he's. I don't know. Maybe that just wasn't his wheelhouse to do. Was, a Tom Cruise action movie.
Well,
because there's the doves and the
yeah. You know what? He tried to bit a bit of romance and poetry in it. I thought it was maybe I need to do like a whole. I don't think I'll have time tonight. I was like, can I do this before 10 a.m.? No. What I remember, one of the things that's kind of ridiculous about, like, I don't know, a lot of the so when it comes to like the superhero genre, you can kind of get away with people like surviving stuff because most of them got superpowers or some sort of like serum or something that makes so they can survive. But it's so interesting to see franchises now like Mission Impossible, like the Fast and the Furious franchise, where now they're like just superhuman.
Oh no, they have superpowers in Fast and the
Furious.
Yeah,
I love that. I love it. Fast and Furious is insane. Like,
it's ridiculous. I love it.
In Fast 9, and I really enjoyed Fast 10. I thought it was so insane. Like, I remember it was so good to be in a screening where everyone's like cheering. It's like they were like, you're in the Vatican City. He's like, and we're like, he's not gonna do it. No, he's not gonna do it. He's not gonna do it. He did it. He jumped on this thing and went round. And you're like, I can't believe he's gonna do it, but they will do it. And I like it because it feels far more back down to earth with the cars rather than like submarines, right? All those type of things. It's really, they're really good drivers. I love that this is how it's come. They used to like the first film. It's like they're stealing like DVD players.
Yeah, they've really escalated.
Things escalated quickly. And then, but like, what annoys me is like, there's a bit where Vin Diesel on Fast 9, you know, when he kind of like suddenly he's got about 20 men on him at once, and he comes out and he's going, and it's like, no.
Yeah, and he beats them all up. And...
Yeah. And it's like,
I am Groot. That's all
And then even like in Hobbs and Shaw, there's that, you know, remember that is it Captain America Civil War where Steve Rogers like holds a helicopter and like does this. He's like,
and he's like straight,
The Rock does that.
Yeah,
the same.
And
move.
He doesn't have super serum.
And in Mission Impossible, like with Ethan Hawke, I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it's Ghost Protocol, but he's like, obviously, there's always going to be him on a motorcycle. But he like absolutely wiped out. Not one like cut or anything like that, and that's what annoys me. Just give him a few cuts, at least.
Let him give him a limp or something.
Like, it just annoys me. It's like, come on, like, please, can you just like give me something? Just give me something to make me like at some point worry about his life. Because right now I'm just like, he's impenetrable. He's like impervious to any sort of harm.
And even in that motorcycle accident, wasn't even planned. That was actually Tom Cruise wrecking the motorcycle.
Yeah.
And they just left it in the movie, and they just let him just walk away from it.
Here's what I love. Here's what I appreciate about the Mission Impossible movies, which I just watched them all recently because I wanted to see the one that had Henry Cavill in it, and my husband
loads his muscles.
Let me watch so cool. Just that one. He said you have to watch all of them. That was the only way that. So anyway, so we did that, and the thing is you can tell Tom Cruise mainly does his own stunts, and I really appreciate that, and that's why I love watching. That's one of the reasons why I love Keanu Reeves so much, is because you can tell that they're doing. So it makes it a little bit more believable, just a little bit.
Well, and also I think there is a case for like stunt choreography to be like recognized at far more award shows, because also, again, sorry to go back to the Marvel stuff, but like none of them motherfuckers do anything
for real. Like
that's what they're all in helmets. Someone else can do it.
Anything.
I remember speaking to like some people who worked on the stunt team, and they were talking about like Civil War. And it's like, you know, that whole fight between Tony and Steve. It's like none of it is Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. These are the stunt dudes doing it. Like, it's not America's ass. It's that stunt guy's ass.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's kind of like. And there's something I saw this one the other day when, like, what was it? Tom Cruise doing one where he's like, I think it must be for the new one, but he's like getting a motorcycle and he like dives off a cliff.
Oh, yeah.
And he comes down and he lets out his parachute, and they're watching it, and he's like, yeah, I think I'd do that again. It's like, again? I think he nailed it.
Yeah.
It's like wild to me. Like, you have to appreciate. And even like in Top Gun, like I would say, I actually like Top Gun, the original story, better than I like Top Gun Maverick, because that got into like the espionage kind of like, oh, now suddenly stuck behind enemy lines and all that. I thought it was kind of a little bit basic. And I also think they should have brought Meg Ryan back. I thought it was really rude that they killed her off screen. They get Val Kilmer in who can't speak.
I know.
But they can't get Meg Ryan. It's like, I know she had her lips done, but she can still talk. Like,
she's still alive and well.
Yeah.
Probably available.
And then Jennifer Connelly being the classic like barmaid. It's like, it's been you to walk through this door again, like that sort of thing. But the dog fights in Top Gun are insane, and the fact that like all the cast were kind of in that. Those reactions are from people actually getting flung around. Again, I don't want to act.
Ever.
That part would be fun, but like then when
I would be
like,
projectile. I would not be able to handle it all.
I need you to climb this building up there, and I'm like, ooh,
no,
I don't know, Tom.
Like I don't get vertigo a lot, but like sometimes if I stand up too quickly, it's like cool. So I don't think I could handle a full on plane.
All right, we're running on time because I know she has a hard stop in a few minutes. So do you want to ask your other question, Jason?
What was my other question?
Sorry, I like segued into not talking.
No,
I was just having an awesome conversation. It was just fun talking about movies and stuff.
I had a question. So
go ahead, Lisa.
You end your book on the strong female character.
Oh, that's my question. Remind me.
Okay, go ahead. Say it then.
No, go ahead, ladies first.
Okay. So, and you're talking about how, it's easy, which I agree, it's easy to keep the strong female character. You said like Buffy, which I'm a Buffy girl. I love Buffy. I rewatch it. I love it. I try to get my kids to watch it, and they're like, I guess it hasn't aged well. So I think it's kind of one of those things that you had to be there. Yeah, we do the Buffy sing along. So it hasn't aged well. And one of the things is my daughter's like, she's just so obsessed with this guy. Like that's like one of the driving plots. And I'm like,
how old's your daughter?
Well, yeah. Okay. So she's 14.
Oh, interesting.
So it's just, but I've tried. So, okay. So here's the thing, just real quick. We live in Georgia. So we live in the South. So in the South, when I was growing up, it was very much everyone was in church, and it was pray for your husband, and your whole goal in life was to make sure that you become a good wife and a good mother. Like, so that was my whole identity. Not that I regret my life. I got really lucky that my husband, I'm bossy and I'm a feminist, and he loves me and he supports me, and but it could have gone a very different way. Like I see my friends who got married early who literally have no identity other than being a wife and a mother. So anyway, so when we started raising our kids from the moment they've been born, like, you don't have to get married, you don't have to have kids, you get to be your own person, you don't need no man, you don't need no wife, like none of that, so for me, I was a hopeless romantic. So and I'm still that way. Any love story I am in, I'm a marshmallow for. I want it. I just want, like, at the end, I want it all be wrapped up in a bow, so Buffy, I loved Buffy and Angel. Yeah. Unfortunately, I love Buffy and Spike. I like them. Problematic, but it doesn't with the new kids. They're like, nah, she's not that great.
But it's interesting though, because like, compared to say, I mean, there's certainly like problematic elements. Like I feel like Xander. I used to really like Xander, and now I'm like, oh wow, he's such a pest. Like, please.
Xander was my favorite character until
I know. Now you're like, oh no. But if you think about like the fact that Willow, like the character lesbian love story there, that was one of the like first time you probably seen that in like a kind of young adult primetime television show,
and like just normalized it.
But also like, Buffy's obsessed with Angel like we all get obsessed with boys. Like, I don't know your daughter, so I don't know if she's obsessed with who she might be obsessed with or not. But also what I really love about the character is that it's not just about, like, she's got literally the entire world's safety like on her shoulders. She's wanting to like a date, but also have to fend off the apocalypse. And then she does this while wanting to look cute. And I love that about her. And like, she's so vulnerable. And I kind of say in the bit, like, I love when she loses her virginity, and that creates like the worst thing. What happens to her? She basically just like gets like fobbed off. It's like that's what some of us went through, and
yeah,
and you know, I mentioned Never Have I Ever earlier, but like that's the series that's all about this girl who's obsessed with all these boys, or like so many of the TV shows that I watch nowadays. They're very much maybe like Wednesday isn't as much, but
yeah,
I don't know.
they
Maybe
love
it's just
Wednesday. Yeah,
maybe like sometimes you have to come to it at a certain time in your life. Like I think maybe your daughter will come to a point where they've been through heartache or something like that.
I guess.
Like,
do you think that did you ever watch the Gilmore Girls?
Yes, I did.
Do you think that Lorelai
it was so
is strong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in a way that felt like no one talks like that.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that Lorelai was a strong female character, or?
Yeah, I mean, look, my definition of a strong female character is someone who is their strengths come from their weaknesses. It comes from their flaws. And I would say Lorelai is really fucking annoying. And she can be so unlikable. And I think that's what makes her a good character, because that's realistic, right? She's frustrating. But that all comes from a sense of defense mechanism, because she's a single mother. She's been hurt so many times. And, you know, that's what they all make. I mean, it's kind of like watching Chandler in female form. Sometimes it's like, she's a Chandler big. Like, you know, and so I can accept that. And I think, you know, a character like her, she's putting on this strong front, but it's actually hiding a real sadness and vulnerability and a weakness of like, I don't want to show who I am because I'm scared of getting hurt. You know, when her ex-husband comes back around, Rory's dad and stuff. And then like this stuff with, is it Luke who owns the cafe?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All
Luke.
these things. And it like, I think it's interesting, because I used to watch it when I was like, Rory was obviously the one I tried to relate to. But now, like now where I am in my life and the breakups I've gone through and stuff, it's like, Lorelai, I feel you.
Yeah.
Again, it's all subjective, right? I think enough time, like Amy Palladino, when you've got enough time with a character, and certainly with series where you can really get into it and see the character evolve, that's really great. But I think sometimes strong female characters become so limited by strong taken literally that we just think, oh, just throw some, like, perfect example of like a really underwritten strong female character I saw recently was in the Super Mario movie with Peaches. Like that was like bare minimum. Like added really nothing much. She can do all these sort of flips around, like, but she doesn't she goes on no journey, right? She's just there to prop up the lead, right? And she doesn't really have any flaws. She's just like a perfect little kind of, oh, I'm a little hero. And that's the problem. It's like, you know, when they have the Mary Sue, like that sort of thing, which I don't really like using that as a pejorative term. But like, I think, you know, for me, it's like my favorite strong female characters are like, certainly, well, in the action genre, it'd be like Harley Quinn is great, or like Wonder Maximoff. I love
Harley Quinn.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, or even like, you know, Jen Yu in like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I love, like, I love her, and it's so yeah. But strong female characters can come in any sort of genre. It's any form. I think we just need to have, and that's why I kind of want to reclaim that name, really, because also what I suppose the point of the book was to kind of go like, I present as this kind of outwardly like, oh, I'm really doing all these things, but actually fundamentally, like deep down, I'm going through all these like vulnerabilities and stress and fears and anxiety. And I've made so many mistakes in my life and flaws, but that actually just builds us who we are and actually just makes us stronger. So that's the point. And actually, certainly, the goal is that nowadays, where we are in like cinema, we can have, and TV as well, it's like, we can explore that. So we can explore to like the unending ways that women, people who identify as women, can like be presented on screen. And so that's the kind of like hopeful, the mission statement of the book, and hopefully in some way that's kind of come across at the end.
I agree. Yeah, that's why I loved it.
Mission accomplished.
I loved that you ended it on that. Yeah, because then it just made me sit there and think, okay, well, who are these characters that I always, you know, aspire to, and are just because you know, art imitates life. Like, I don't care what it is, period. So you're always trying to find yourself in one of these characters. And that's why I think ultimately people decide if they love something or not, if you can see yourself in what you
and obviously everything that I like is correct and anyone else is wrong.
Yes, always. That's the way it always obviously.
That goes
right there, done.
Show over. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say, Jason? We're at her limit?
Oh, I just want to say thank you. That's it.
Oh.
Thank you for joining us. This has been great. I've been having so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure chatting. I love talking to people like nerds. Like
yes, good. Because we are big
understand
nerds.
that. Yeah, because it's like we can talk about the references. It's like great. I don't have to like explain this. Like sometimes you talk to people like they're like, I haven't watched that. I don't know who that person is. It's like
yeah.
But no, thank you so
no.
much. And yeah,
Do
all the
you-
love from London to Georgia.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us where we can find you, what you're doing right now, what we need to?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Plug.
you can get my book, which
Mhm.
is out in you can get it on Audible, you can get it on Amazon. I think you can get like I also did the narration, the audiobook. So if you love my dulcet tones, you can listen to me for 9 hours.
I've been listening to you for quite some time.
Oh, I love it. There you go.
Nice.
Did you like the bits where I get to like where I'm trying to do like quote things from movies? And I'm
Yes.
like, when I was doing it, I was like, I am not doing a New Yorker accent or like Leonardo DiCaprio on the Wolf of Wall Street talking about shaved pussies.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. But no, you can get it. You can get it there, and you can get it in Kindle form, and then you can get it on Amazon. You can get it in bookshops, I think, as well. But yeah, no, and that's kind of like it. And you can follow me like. I'm not really on Twitter that much, but if you want to follow me on Instagram at Hanna Flint. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for taking the time to.
Yes.
Thank you
Talk
for
to us.
messaging me back. You know, it's always we never really know if anyone's gonna read it. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we love all things nerds. So yeah, anytime you're like, oh my gosh, I wonder what they thought about that, just hit us up and we'll just tell you our opinions.
I will do. Amazing. Do you need to stop recording before I exit, or
That'd probably be a good thing. I'm going to press the button now. Boom. No,
yeah,
I
you
didn't
just